Hi, everyone. I hope you are as excited to learn today as I am. It is like 12:02 now, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this training started. I know your time is valuable, and most of you are probably on your lunch hour. So sit back, enjoy your lunch, and we'll get this learning started. So this month, I just wanted to point out that our featured sponsor is the Small Business Administration. They are a wonderful supporter of Grow Nebraska, of our Women's Business Center, and all the things that we do here. And without sponsors like them, we would not be able to put on these trainings for free like we do. So we just want to give a big shout out to them and let them know how grateful we are that they continue to support us this year and in future years. And they support, of course, small businesses. Our featured member this month is Susan Tonages. She has been a Grow Nebraska member since 2019. She is an accountant, and that's what her business is. So if you have any accounting needs, especially here coming up on this tax season, don't hesitate to reach out to her. She is wonderful to work with. She's such a patient woman, and I really appreciate that, especially since I don't always know the right questions to ask about my accounting needs and things like that. And she does have a couple of our old trainings on the On-Demand Center on our website, as well as on our YouTube channel that you can check out if you want to learn a little bit from her or just get to know her personality a little better. So thank you, Susan, for being a member. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and jump into the presentation, Stop Spinning Your Wheels. And Aaron, I'm going to butcher his name, I always do, Purkeypile, is our presenter today. And so he's going to teach us about that. And I'm going to get that pulled up here. And then we will get back on for a few more announcements as well as any questions at the end. If you have questions during the presentation, don't hesitate to put them over there in the chat. That way we can make sure that those get answered or they don't get bypassed. If you're like me, you forget your questions, or you have so many questions, then you're like, oh man, what was that other question I had? So just put them over there in the chat, and feel free to ask any questions that you have or comments, anything like that, in the chat. So, all right.
Hey everybody, my name is Aaron Purkeypile, and I am a professional EOS implementer. And I want to thank Lindsay and the Grow Nebraska team for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about clarity and execution today, and I'm going to talk about it in the context of EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is based on a book by a guy named Gino Wickman, and the book's name is Traction. I have to acknowledge something right out of the gate, that if you're watching this and you're a small business owner or you're a small business leader, that you are braver than most because you've been willing to jump into the game that we call business. Some of you probably started your business so you could control your own schedule or because of the financial upside. Some of you accidentally started a business when your hobby got out of control, and others just have it in your blood, right? Your family has always been this way, and you couldn't imagine living a life where you didn't run your own business. Or maybe this is just a side hustle. But no matter the reason, you have more courage than most people do because you choose and have chosen uncertainty. I love this quote from Tim Ferriss: most people will choose unhappiness over uncertainty. So congratulations to you for being brave enough to step into the small business world, whether it's a side hustle or it's a full-time gig. Because of the uncertainty of that, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to do that. So congratulations. So my goal to start today is to help you, give you and your teams more clarity, and then give you some tools that you can actually execute on that clearly defined vision that you set. So it all starts with this model. The EOS model starts with your business at the center. And there's 6 key components of this model, 6 pieces that make up your business. That first key component is the vision component. So this is just getting really clear with you and anybody who's in your business and on your team with where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. In order to achieve that vision, you have to have great people. And so I'll talk a little bit about what it takes to have and find and keep great people. You have to have great data that you're tracking. So a lot of times small business owners, you get into the day-to-day and you start running your business on gut feeling and that kind of thing. And what we want to do is get away from that and be really objective with the data that we're keeping track of. Then we have this issues component. You have issues that are coming up day after day after day. Some of them are repeat issues. Some of them feel brand new. And we want you to get really great at solving your issues, like identifying what those are and actually solving them and making them go away. The process component, this is all about systemizing your business so that if you got hit by a bus tomorrow, someone can pick up where you left off and run your business really well. Gives you a lot of clarity, gives you a lot of peace of mind that your business is running the way it should. And then finally, the traction component. So this is all about taking that vision down from the ground and, down to the ground and executing on it day in and day out. What Gino likes to say is that vision without traction is hallucination. So that's why we need to bring that vision down to the ground and actually execute on it. We can't live up in the clouds for forever. So the first thing that we want to do with that vision component is to actually identify and clarify what that vision is. And the EOS process and the EOS model is all about answering 8 questions. And I'm going to share what those questions are with you. And the biggest takeaway here is we're not trying to write a 50-page strategic plan. Most of us in small business don't have time to sit down and write that, let alone follow it on a day-to-day basis. So what we're trying to do is simplify that vision planning and that goal planning so that we can actually have a document and have something that can guide us and we don't lose track, right? That becomes our North Star. The 8 questions that we answer are housed on a document called the Vision Traction Organizer. And I can send you a copy of this and you can run your business on this, fill it out. It's really simple. Basically, the first 4 questions down the left-hand side of the vision side of this Vision Traction Organizer, or VTO, is all about who you are, what you love to do and are best at, where you're going, and how you're going to get you. So core values, that's who you are at your core. Core focus, this is what you in your business, you love to do, you're great at it. It's kind of narrowing your target market down and narrowing what you do down so you don't start chasing bright, shiny objects. The 10-year target is that long-term goal. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to take this? And then finally, the marketing strategy is all about who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to have conversations with? And what's the message that we need to share with them about our product, about our service, about our business? And then on the right-hand side, you have this 3-year picture. And that 3-year picture is all about taking that 10-year target and distilling it down to where do we need to be 3 short years from now to be on track for that 10-year target. And once you've defined and kind of set apart that 3-year picture, now you bring that down to the traction side of the VTO and you're creating a 1-year plan. Where do we need to be a year from now? What are the 3 to 7 goals that we need to accomplish to be on track for that 3-year picture? And then we have Rocks, which is creating this 90-day world. It's kind of like when you set New Year's resolutions. A lot of people forget their New Year's resolutions by the end of January or the end of February. And so what we want to do is create this 90-day world that we're laser focused on the most important priorities for the quarter with those quarterly rocks. So 3 to 7 of those as well. And then finally, you have this issues list where we're just getting all the issues that come up and we're identifying those and we're getting those onto a list so that we can get to solving those. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the issues component. The most important thing, there are 3 points that I really want to clarify and talk about when we're clarifying your vision. The first is you want to be specific. A lot of us can say, oh, I want to make more money. I want to take over the world. That's not really specific. We want to be as specific as possible while leaving it broad. Maybe it's a specific revenue goal. I want to grow my business to $1 million in revenue this year, or 500,000 in revenue, or maybe even more. But you want to be as specific as possible while leaving it broad enough to give you some wiggle room as you're chasing down that vision. Secondly, you want to be brief. As I mentioned before, this Vision Traction Organizer, it's a 2-page document that simplifies strategic planning. We're not trying to create this handbook, this 50-page book that is going to sit in a drawer and we forget all the facets of that as we go. And finally, what we want to do is be outspoken about that vision. Once you've clarified what your vision is, you've specified what it is, don't sit around and keep it to yourself. You want to share it with team members. If you have mentors, share it with them. Share it with trusted friends and family, people that are going to support you and challenge you and push you and remind you of that vision so you don't lose track of the most important thing that you've decided that you want to do with your business. So we've answered those 8 questions on the VTO, and now we want to share it with everybody in our organization. That's, again, being outspoken about that. Don't let it sit in a drawer. Pull it out and talk about it with people that you care about so that they can also catch the vision, the same vision. So in order to achieve that great vision, you have to have great people, right? So we want to identify the right people for your business. We want to take those core values that we've set and that we've discovered, and we want to find people that fit those core values. Those become right people in your business, in your organization. And in his book, Traction, Gino introduces this tool called the People Analyzer that allows you to grade your people and determine, are they right people? So along the top half of that page, along the top of that page, you're going to list all of your core values, those 3 to 7 core values that you discovered. You're going to put everybody in your organization's name down the left-hand side, and then you're going to grade them of whether they plus most of the time, minus most of the time they don't. So plus is most of the time they do, minus is most of the time they don't. Plus minus is sometimes they do, sometimes they don't exhibit these core values. And you're going to grade your people. And what you want to do is determine, are these the right people in our organization? Do they fit who we are at our core? But it doesn't come down to just right people. We also need to make sure that they are filling the right seats. Think of this as your organization as a bus. You want to get everybody in the right seat on the bus. This comes from Jim Collins, right people, right seats. We want to make sure that we're putting people in places that they can be successful for themselves and also to help the business be successful. So right seats. In EOS, we take a structure first, people second approach to when we're building out what we call our accountability chart and trying to put the right people in the right seats. So it starts with this fundamental belief that every business, no matter what it is, has basically 3 major functions. You have a marketing and sales function, how you go out and get leads and close those leads. You have an operations function, how you make or produce or deliver your product or service. Then you have a finance function, which is all about tracking that money coming in and out, maybe an HR function, etc. And then there's this 4th major function that we call the integrator. And the integrator is the person that makes sure that all of these other 3 major functions have everything that they need. The trains are running on time, they're removing obstacles, and just keeping track of the P&L, making sure that you're making money, etc. They're driving the vision. And about 50% of the time, there's an additional seat on this accountability chart that we call the visionary. This is someone that stays at a high level and loves to kind of plan and stay in the clouds. They stay at 30,000 feet. They can see way down the road where the business is going or where it could go. And they work hand in hand with that integrator to develop the vision and then actually execute on that vision. And as I mentioned before, we take a structure first, people second approach. So you want to take time building this accountability chart out. And this is very similar to a concept that was highlighted by a guy named Michael Gerber in the book, The E-Myth Revisited. And he says, build out your accountability chart, build it out with all the seats that you need, even if that means that your name's in all of the functions. But you need to decide, what is the function? And then what are the 5 major roles of that function? What are they responsible for? And once you've determined the function and the roles, then you can start putting names in that seat. So I spent time as a college basketball coach for a little while. And let's say that I wanted to fill the role or the seat of a starting guard. I want them to defend the best ball handler on the other team, create scoring chances for other team members. I want them to score points as well, control the tempo of the game, the speed of the game, and to minimize turning over the basketball. So in order for me to fill this seat, I need to look at my roster and say, does the person that I want starting at guard, do they get it? Do they wake up every day and understand what it takes to be the starting guard? Do they want to be a starter? Do they want to own that seat? And do they have the capacity to do it? Do they have the talent, the skills, the experience in order to fulfill that role? And so you're going to do the same thing with every seat on that accountability chart. And once we've identified all of those seats, all those functions, all those roles, we're going to marry that get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it onto the people analyzer at the very end. You have a powerful tool for determining whether you have the right people in your organization right here against the core values, and are they in the right seats? Do they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it? Powerful tool to determine whether you have the right people in the right seats. As you grow, you're going to start filling out the rest of your accountability chart. You may only be a 1 or 2 person shop right now, but you can grow to a place where there are people that serve under each of these functions. And each of the people that fill these functions or these seats further down the accountability chart are also going to have to be right people in the right seats. You're going to go through the same process to make sure that you're filling your people and your seats with the right people. Once you're using this right people, right seats to determine whether or not they're a good fit or if they're a good fit in the seat that they're in, you're going to have two kinds of people issues that pop up. The first is you're going to have a right person, so someone who fits your culture, you love them, they're like family, maybe they are family, but they're in the wrong seat. They don't get it, want it, or have the capacity to fulfill the roles that are necessary to be successful in that seat. Secondly, you could have a wrong person in the right seat. So this is someone who just doesn't fit the culture, doesn't fit the core values, even though they're good at their job, and they're killing and undermining the culture along the way. So you have to make a change. You have to be brave enough to make a change when one of these two kinds of people issues shows up. So one more time, the people component is all about getting right people in the right seats. You have to have both. You can't have it split. Some right people in the wrong seat and some wrong people in the right seats. You got to have right people and right seats in order to achieve that vision that you've started to clarify. Next up is the data component. So again, we want to move away from kind of flying by the seat of our pants and thinking we're making money or feeling our way through decisions. And we want to have objective ways to track whether we are moving in the right direction. We want a pulse on the business that is true and accurate. I love this quote from Michael Ventura. There is no finish line. There are only mile markers. And isn't that the truth in business? The bar just continues to move, right? The goal line continues to move. But what we want to do is track those mile markers to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. So the two ways that we keep track of the score or keep track of this data component, the first is you want to develop a really strong scorecard. So 5 to 15 measurables. We'll talk about that in a second. And what we call measurables, everybody should have a number that they're tracking to make sure that they're helping the team get where they want to go. So a company scorecard lists measurables. So these should be leading indicators. These should try to help you get an idea and be able to predict what's going to happen, right? So maybe you've got weekly revenue, cash balance, right? There's a bunch of different ways that you can, depending on your business, determine what's the right measurable to keep track of. Then there's a goal for each of these numbers. We don't just want to track something. We want to be able to try to hit numbers, exceed numbers, or maybe not hit certain numbers, right? Maybe on expenses. And then there should be one person who's responsible for tracking that number and keeping it on track. And finally, the company scorecard has 13 weeks of data so that you can start to spot trends and have a good idea of whether you're moving in the right direction or not. Gets away from leading with emotion, we start to be able to make decisions based on data. I told you I was a basketball coach, and it's not that much different from keeping track of specific stats when you're a basketball coach, right? You want to keep score. And most importantly, here are 3 points to keep in mind. The first is less is more. You don't need to track 100 things. There should be 5 to 15 critical numbers that give you an idea of whether you're moving in the right direction. Secondly, you want to look ahead. You want those numbers to try to help you predict whether you're going to be in a better place next week than you are right now. And then finally, it's important to track your progress. Those 13 weeks are important. It's just like if you started a fitness program and you take before and after pictures, right? We love to see those. You want to be able to keep track of where you started and where you're going so you can track whether you're moving in the right direction. So once you have a clear vision and you're starting to sort out your right people, right seat issues and the people component, and you're starting to track good data, what happens is your business becomes a lot more transparent and there's a lot more clarity, and opportunities and problems and issues, they start to bubble up. And so what we want to do is to start listing those issues somewhere so we can get to the bottom of those. So the issues component is made up of two things. The first is the issues list. So getting and building a culture as you grow your business where everybody feels comfortable raising their hand when something isn't working, when something's wrong, saying there's an issue, let's get it on a list so we can solve it. And then secondly, it's something that we call the issue solving track, or IDSing. And I'll explain what that is on the next slide. So once you start listing all of the problems in the business, all of the issues that need to be solved, what we want to do is actually identify, discuss, and then solve that issue. And what we find is that even great leadership teams spend a lot of time discussing the heck out of an issue and never actually solve it. So what we want to do is get out of that habit of letting our issues kind of drive us crazy and actually solve those things. So what we're going to do is go to that issues list and identify the 1 two, and three most important things that we need to solve in order to be moving in the right direction. So we start there. You got Andy S. in the right seat. What we want to do is spend time identifying that issue. So digging down to the root cause of that issue, briefly discussing it, and then actually solving that. So that solving, we need somebody who's going to take ownership of that, tell us what they're going to do, how they're going to solve that problem, and when they're going to get it done. Once we've done that for the first one, we're going to go back to number two, website rock off track. We're going to identify, discuss, and solve, and we're going to keep working until we get through all of those issues one. So what that means is, I love this. I made my problems disappear. It reminds me of Kevin McAllister coming down from the attic when his parents and his family are all gone, right? I made my family disappear. What we want to do is what I call identify the snake nest. When my wife and I, we rented this house when we were first married, and it was winter time, and my wife was taking a shower, and our son, who was only like 2 years old, started yelling, "Mommy, snake, snake, snake." So she looks out, and there's this snake that's coming out of the vent in the bathroom. So she takes my golf club and kills the snake. A couple days later, another snake comes up through the vent, and we were so confused because we'd never had this problem before. So the landlord comes over and goes in the basement and finds the snake nest that these snakes had laid all these eggs in the basement, and because it was so warm, they would just keep crawling up through. So what we want to do, instead of just killing the snakes as they pop up, we want to dig down, go down into the basement, find that snake nest, and actually identify what the root issue is, the root cause of that issue is. Second, we want to stop talking around problems, right? We talked about how teams discuss, and they just go round and round and round. They have a meeting to have another meeting to set up another meeting to talk about the problems and never actually solve it. And finally, you need to be brave enough and bold enough to come up with really great solutions to your problems so they go away. Someone needs to take ownership of it. They need to decide, hey, I'm willing to solve this issue. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm going to do. And this is when I'm going to do it by. Over time, when you're following this model, you're going to get really great at solving issues, and you won't have to keep solving the same problems over and over and over again because you're identifying that snake nest and actually taking care of the problem at its root. Next up is the process component, and what we have here is a way of systemizing your business so that the most important things are done the best and right way every single time. So what we need to do here is we need to document those processes, identify what those handful of core processes are. So we're identifying the handful of core processes: people process, how you hire and fire, retain, reward; marketing process, sales process, a handful of operations processes, maybe a customer service process, an accounting process. So we need to identify what your 6 to 10 core processes are. And then what we is document. We're going to document and simplify those processes. So those processes that we've identified become the table of contents of your process manual, right? We're not going to create this super long manual that no one ever reads, 700-page SOP manual. We want it to be super small and simple that everybody can follow along and keep track of whether or not they're doing the most important processes the best and right way every single time. When we document these processes, we're going to keep it super high level, right? We want to document the 20% of that process that gets us 80% of the result. So we're going to simplify that. So for example, the people process, we maybe identify we have a need to hire somebody. We're going to define the seat that somebody is going to fill. There's a short hiring process. How do we do that? How do we onboard and train them? How do we lead, manage, and hold them accountable? And what happens if we need to fire somebody? What's the process for that? So super simple. And you're going to do that for every process, right? So the sales process, the operations processes, all those processes are going to be documented and simplified. What you end up with is a great handbook, super simple. Everybody can follow along. It's easy to determine whether or not somebody is following that process along the way. And this becomes your company's way of doing business. What we're trying to do is systemize the predictable, the things that happen over and over and over again, so you can humanize the exceptional. People bring different talents and personalities to your business and to their role, and you don't want to remove that. You don't want to make them robots, but we want to systemize the things that need to be repeated every single time so that people can operate in their own talents. Also, I talked a little bit before, maybe you started a business so you could control your own schedule, and now the business is running you, and you're like, I can't get away. I don't feel confident handing things off to somebody else because I'm worried that it won't be done the way it needs to be done. What the process component does when you're documenting these processes, it allows you peace of mind because someone is going to be able to pick up and do what you do for the business without you having to do it yourself. Once you've got all of those processes documented, now you need to train anybody who's going to touch one of those processes so that they can also follow it. Everybody should play by the same rules, by the same playbook, right? Everybody should be following the processes the same way. The owner or another owner or a family member can't have a different set of rules than everybody else. Everybody needs to follow those follow those processes the way they're documented. What we do is go through a followed by all checklist. We need to train our people on the processes so they're clear on what is required. We want to measure that process, so tying some sort of measurable back to the scorecard so that we can track on a weekly basis whether the processes are actually being followed. We're going to lead, manage, and hold people accountable to those processes. And then once a year, we're going to update each of those processes. Because we've documented it and simplified it, it makes it a lot easier to update when software changes or when steps change or when the business itself changes. 80% of your headaches in business come from the process component and the people component. If we can strengthen the people component and the process component, most of your issues go away. And this brings us back to the traction component. Again, this is taking our vision, bringing it to the ground, and executing on it on a daily, weekly, and quarterly basis. So the first way that we do that is with rocks, setting 3 to 7 company priorities so that we can focus on something really sharply for 90 days. And then finally is the meetings, or what we call the meeting pulse. So there's several different types of meetings that EOS encourages you to. The first would be an annual meeting, so you're meeting once a year to kind of look at the year ahead and beyond. Meeting on a quarterly basis to make sure that you're on track from the last quarter and looking at the next quarter, setting new goals. And then on a weekly basis, you're going to meet with the leaders in your organization. That meeting pulse, or that level 10 meeting that is so critical, should be a meeting that's on the same day every week at the same time. It should start on time and end on time, and you're using the same agenda. And the book Traction lines out what that agenda should look like. But the majority of that meeting, it's usually about 90 minutes long, is all about solving issues as a leadership team and getting really good at solving the most important issues every single week. When we start to achieve really strong traction, you start to see some magic happen in your business because everybody's pulling in the same direction and they're executing on your vision every single day. Lastly, I really want to encourage you to work to stay focused on your vision. And so as a leader, as an individual, one way to do that is with what we call a weekly clarity break. So schedule in your calendar once a week for about around an hour every week where you sit down with a blank page and you just write out everything that's on your mind. Get it out of your head. Write down the problems, write down your victories, write down where you'd like to go, write down where you're falling short as a team, as an individual. Just get it out. Don't edit it along the way. Just get it out there so that you can start sorting through it after you've written all those things out. And keep you individually focused on where you want to go and how you're going to achieve the vision that you've set for your business. And that's it. That's the whole EOS model. It's all about strengthening the 6 key components of your business and your organization so that you can grow, so that you have the right people in the right seats, you're tracking the right things, you're solving your issues, the most important things are being done the best and right way every single day, and most importantly, that vision doesn't just stay in the clouds. You're actually able to execute on that every single day. I would love to help you in your business in any way that you can, free of charge. You don't no expectations, nothing like that. If you have questions or if you'd like a free copy of the book Traction, send me an email, aaron.purkeypile@eosworldwide.com. I'd love to hear about your business and how things are going. Congratulations for making it through 2020, 2021. And I hope that you have a great 2022. Thanks again to Lindsay in Grow, Nebraska for the opportunity to share with you guys. Have a great one.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for doing that presentation for us. Guys, I am blown away. I learned so many things during that presentation, and I have so many takeaways from that. I love how he broke it down into simple, easy steps for me to be able to implement, not only in like my work life, but I was thinking about these things in terms of my personal life. What are my personal goals? How do I want to get there? How do I break this down? So that's super awesome. Um, in the follow-up email, I'll send out his contact information. So if you are interested in the book or want to have a one-on-one talk with him, you'll be able to do that. I don't see any questions currently in the chat. If you have a question, go ahead and pop it in there now. I'm going to do a few more announcements while we give people a little time if they do have questions. So our upcoming trainings, just like this training, we host this every third and fourth Thursday of the month from noon to 1. Obviously, it generally just lasts noon to 12:30ish. We try to keep the learning short and sweet. We know that your time is valuable. So our upcoming trainings next week, we have creating a social media plan you can stick to. And I am actually going to teach that. I just want to show people how even with my super full-time job, I still make time to do Grow Nebraska social media and how I stick to that plan and do all of those things. I want to make it so that your business is more sustainable itself and you don't feel overwhelmed. And so that's what that training is on next week. And then February 17th, we have Facebook strategies to grow your small business. And that is going to be presented by Emily. She is wonderful. She owns a small boutique, and she does a great job at her social media too, especially her Facebook and her Facebook selling. So she's going to teach you more about that. So you can sign up for those links on our website, grownebraska.org, and just go to the upcoming trainings, and they're right on there. You just click register. And just like this, if we get on and you can't get on, we're going to send you the recording afterwards, so you're learning on your own time. So honestly, you're just signing up to receive all of this information, which I think is so wonderful. Another announcement I have is Grow Nebraska. This is so exciting. We're launching a new series, Grow Google series. So it's Google trainings that we're going to offer the first Wednesday of every month. From noon to 1 will be the English version, and then from 6 to 7 p.m. we're going to do it in Spanish. We found that there's a big need for us to be able to do it in both languages. Plus it just helps learners better understand. Even if you watch it in English, I suggest, like, if you're trying to learn some Spanish or you want to be able to communicate a little bit better with people who speak Spanish as a first language, you could hop on that second Spanish training and just learn some basic Spanish skills. I'm going to use it to brush up on my Spanish skills. This upcoming training session, it'll be the same in English and in Spanish. The training will be the same. So this one is how to get your local business on Google search and maps, which is so, so important. I can tell you, people my age, like, that's how I find your business, especially if I'm going to your physical location. Like, even some of my favorite businesses, I have to Google them like that, or that's how I find their phone number. And it's super easy to do that, and they're going to teach us how to do that. So like I said, February 2nd, again, the registration for these two trainings is on that training page on our website, the same place that you went to sign up for this training that you're on today. And then we do send out a recording of that afterwards. The only way to get that recording, though, is to register for this training. So you have to actually register for these Google trainings to receive that recording. We don't put those out on our YouTube channel. So I wanted to give a shout out to our Grow Nebraska Women's Business Center. If you're in the Omaha area, this is such a great resource, especially if you're like thinking of starting a business or you're in the very like infancy stages of your business. We want to help you. And the Women's Business Center is not just for women. It is for men, veterans. I mean, you name it. We're going to help you. Anybody. It's just named the Grow Nebraska Women's Business Center. We want to help anybody and everybody. So if you know somebody in the Omaha area, refer them there. And your first consultation is free. And a lot of the services there are free because we're truly trying to help Nebraskans. And we want to help the state continue to be one of the greatest places to live. So we will work with you there. And you can reach out. The phone number on the slide there is how you get a hold of those gals over there. or you can visit their website, just like you can come to our website and call us at Grow Nebraska. But they specifically work with people in the Omaha area. So if you live in that area or you know somebody that lives over there, reach out to them, get the help that you need, get advice. It's a wonderful place, and they are really excited about working with businesses. So using that enthusiasm to take you a long ways. All right, I didn't see, I revamped the tax code. I'll work on that. I'll see what I can do. We need to get Janelle, the CEO of Grow Nebraska, out there. She's got the advocacy skills. So thank you everybody for getting on. I don't see any questions over there. Like I said, I'll put Aaron's contact information in the follow-up emails. You can always reach out to me by email. It's lindsay@grownebraska.org, or go to our website. Any of our great staff at the Grow Nebraska Foundation can help you to achieve your goals, answer your questions. And then, guys, I just wanted to let you know, if you have any ideas or if you want training on something specific, reach out and let me know. I will find a trainer for whatever you're looking for. You want to learn about TikTok? Because that's what I want to learn about right now. Reach out and let me know. I'll find a trainer. I'll set up a training on it, and that will be our monthly training. I want to hear from you what you want to learn about, because I want to help you grow and be better and do better, especially with your businesses. So reach out to me at any time and I'll help you. Thanks for getting on today, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your week.